Hey, Mila Vulture, welcome to Irish Granny Helen. Welcome to all of my returning subscribers, all of my new subscribers, anyone who's just stopping by because they have a pet that they love. I read a very interesting article about Edgar Cayce. Now, Edgar Cayce was known as the sleeping prophet. He was this kind of quiet guy who I think in the 30s and then into the 40s, roughly, started to make predictions. He started healing people is the beginning of his career, and it went on into prophecy. He was called the sleeping prophet. He would go into a sort of a sleeping state. I don't know, maybe like a kind of an hypnotic state, although it wasn't hypnosis. And he would speak and he would answer questions about people's health, specific people's health, but he would also make predictions. And his work is absolutely fascinating. He's got a center at Virginia Beach where they have all of the transcripts of every session he ever had. If you're not familiar with the work of Edgar Cayce, read The Sleeping Prophet. It's a really good book. And when his name pops up, it always attracts my attention because I've known about him since I was in grade school. I read stuff about him. And for some reason, I've always found his story compelling, and I have yet to feel a red flag that there's something not genuine about him. I think he was very genuine. I don't know. I can't explain what he did, but it's fascinating. So I just read something that blew my mind. It's that I didn't know this. It's what he said about dogs, about our pet dogs. And now he said this in 1944, and I took notes because I thought we're going to read cards, but I thought it would be interesting to give you a little background. He said that there would come a time, he predicted this in 1944 about the future, and he actually named a time right around now. He said there would come a time in the future in human society when dogs would take on a new role. They've always been our companions. They sort of evolved parallel with us. They were successful in evolution because they served us so well that, we bred the ones that did what we wanted them to do. So, that's pretty basic, but that was basically what happened. And he talks about canine evolution. And he says that, and just a caveat here, I was always under the impression that when you reincarnated, you would reincarnate into a more evolved organism than what you previously were. But over the past couple of years, I've been reading more and more about reincarnation not being chronological, that you can jump from time period to time period, past and future, and also organisms. So I don't know what to think. I don't have all the answers, but I hope that you'll join me in looking at this very interesting notion, a prediction of Edgar Cayce, that there would come a time in this period here, specifically where we're living right now, where dogs would take on a new role in their relationship to human beings. Now, tell me if you think this sounds familiar. Dogs would begin to be able to detect diseases. Check. They are actually being used for that. That dogs are going to be capable of predicting events. Now, this is not as astounding. Animals often know when an earthquake is coming. And if you're observant enough of their behavior, you realize that they're sensing something. But it's going to become more dramatic. And the dogs are going to become directly telepathic with their owners. Now, if you have a dog that you love, you probably think, hello, that's already happened. I would agree with that. But I think keep in mind, we're living in the time period he said this would be happening. So the fact that you might have experienced these things is what he predicted. I don't think our grandparents would have felt exactly the same way. People had a more utilitarian attitude about dogs. I remember when I was a child, dogs were relegated to the backyard. Dogs were chained up. Dogs were not doted over. Now I'm making a general statement, and I'm saying in the larger part of society, dogs were not treated the way they're treated today for the most part. Times have changed. We have evolved in our relationship with them, and I think it's significant that their relationship to us would evolve. So detecting diseases, they use dogs now as what's the word? Assistance dogs that detect the onset of seizures, that are able to sniff out cancer, that are aware of anxiety attacks on the way. They're reading the energy. This is what Edgar Cayce predicted. And the next step after becoming fully telepathic with people, they will be clearing the energy to neutralize it. And this is actually the culmination of why they are here. He said it would happen at a time when talking machines connect us. Hello, what are we doing right now? The dogs will awaken to their spiritual purpose, that they will become conscious collaborators with human beings, that they were reincarnated, their souls were reincarnated as evolved souls to help our transformation, our spiritual transformation, that dogs are disguised masters. And I thought it would be interesting to read cards about that. I'm not even sure how we would characterize a question. So let's just do a Celtic cross about the spirit of dogs, the purpose of dogs. Do dogs have a higher spiritual purpose for the direct benefit of humanity? I'm using my Influence of the Angels deck because that seemed appropriate. Okay. Oh, this came out a little differently than I expected. It's a lot more specific than I thought it would be. I thought this would be kind of a general, sort of a touchy-feely kind of reading, talking about vague spiritual notions. This actually gets pretty specific. So in general, the situation itself, like dog's relationship to us, I get the Nine of Cups reversed, and I think this is making reference to people today, and specifically American people today. Our sense of self has been upset. Our feeling of complacent contentment has been challenged, and we get the Eight of Wands crossing it. So this is talking about the many blows to our sense of security and well-being, and our positive emotions. This is more of a stirring up of a lot of angst and negative emotions at the moment by direct attacks on our state of being. So we're not just talking about specific events in the chronology of current events that we could point to that cause us angst, worry, upset, etc. We're also talking about spiritual challenges that are asking us to step up and make the right choices. So the question here not about that. The question here is about the role of dogs inside of this situation. These two cards are setting the scene. And in the atmosphere, we get the sun. I think this is absolutely relevant. This gets to the heart of it. This is a moment of awakening. This is a moment of spiritual evolution. Should we accept it? It's, it's up to us. Some will, some won't. It's about achieving our destiny, achieving our spiritual goals of why we're here. And at the foundation, we get the Empress. I think what's significant about the Empress card, it always reflects, no matter what the artwork is, it always reflects this sort of natural world, feminine energy, the yin and the yang, not boys and girls, not gender, the energy, creative energy, the energy of compassion, surrounded kind of in a Garden of Eden kind of situation where there is animal life, flora and fauna, a sense of perhaps birth or rebirth. I think that's an indication that we're talking about evolution in all senses, reincarnation, rebirth, and our relationship to nature, specifically in the animals, and then, of course, specifically to dogs. And in the recent past, we get the Tower. And I have to say, I don't get the Tower a lot. And when I do, it's always about big things. Now, that might seem self-evident. What I mean by that is if people might ask me about jobs or love or money, and the cards may not always be good, but the Tower is big bad. The Tower is a huge shakeup. I think this is talking about us at a moment here, a paradigm shifting moment where things are literally being shaken up. And this is that moment of transformation that's happening right now. It's why everybody feels so unsettled. It's why events are so unsettled. It's why pragmatic people with maybe not so great, with definitely not so great aspirations are stepping into the fore because, nature abhors a vacuum. When there's an opportunity, the opportunists, the predators will step up. So all of this is to say things are in flux, things are in change. And the Knight of Swords is our near future. What is the Knight of Swords? The Knight of Swords can talk about changing governing bodies, changing laws. It can talk about truth, as in what will be revealed. And it implies a sort of speed and aggression and energy behind that. I think this is talking specifically about the fact that we're in a paradigm shifting moment, a moment of great changes where truth may very well be revealed. Well, our specific question is about the role of dogs interacting with us and their purpose in our society, in our existence, not just American society, but the existence of humans, the relationship between humans and dogs. And this card is saying truth is becoming revealed. We're finding out. Really interesting card here. The Wheel of Fortune. It's karmic. It's about rebirth. It's about transformation. And it's a positive thing. And it's in the larger environment of the Ten of Pentacles. Dogs are stepping into their role in the human family, in our spiritual family, in a sense. They have Oh, the Ten of Pentacles is like generational. These two cards together to me immediately speak of rebirth and reincarnation, generational gifts handed down, and evolutionary ideas. We have been in a bad place for a long time. And I think we've been in a really sad place for our relationship with animals for a long time. I feel personally like my attitude and relationship to animals has dramatically changed from the time I was a child till today. Without going into a lot of details, the culture and time period that I was born into did not have the insight, the compassion, the understanding about human relationships with animals that we have today. There's no, I think you all know to what I refer, or at least older people will know to what I refer. Times have changed dramatically, and it's a good thing. Outcome is very interesting. This is the specific outcome that took me by surprise. So this change, the Nine of Wands, this is the sense of coming close to a culmination of a relationship and a defense, a role of protection and stepping up to ward off negative things. Now, if you apply that to the notion of the evolution of a dog spirit, well, what else would you call it if you were told that a pet would be capable of warning you about upcoming events, or communicating with you in times of need, or alleviating your emotional distress, or even warning of physical problems? But no longer are dogs just guarding the sheep. There's much more to it now, but they're stepping into this role for a lot more, a larger variety of jobs to help us. But look what comes out at the end. And I'm sorry, my nose is driving me crazy. When that happens, it means that something's up here. We're getting some important information. The King of Pentacles reversed. I don't want to go too much into detail. I think most of you know who the King of Pentacles is in my readings. I wasn't expecting to see him drop by and pay a visit. And the fact that there's a reversal is, to me, a very encouraging thing. It's a rejection of using life for personal gain in a general sense. It's telling us that these animals are stepping into a new role with many, many more tasks that they will do for us. And it's at a time of a rejection of that self-serving, greedy, lack of caring about anything that doesn't provide a personal benefit. So we're talking about awakening and transformation. We're talking about, let me pull the cards back out again, a rebirth and a discovery of abilities. And we're talking about them stepping up in a time of increased anxieties and issues and problems. To me, this feels very much like the answer to our question, what is the role? The role is being revealed. The role of dogs as spiritual companions and help is being revealed. Let's just draw a couple of more clarifiers. I feel like there's more to be said here. I'm using the Mystical Tarot of the Saints. These particular decks, the angels and the saints, this seems apropos. Okay. The King King of Swords. This is like a champion, a protector, stepping up into a role, bringing truth, revealing how do I say this? It's almost as though these spirit masters, these advanced souls have chosen this physical form as our protector because they get so close to us physically, because they are our companions. They live side by side with us. And for many, many people, here my dog's barking, sorry. For many, many people, their dogs are such close companions already. They're stepping into this role. There's truth, the great, great truth to this. The Knight of Coins, they have been steadfast companions for a long time, waiting for the moment when they will embrace their true purpose, and we get the Star. The Star is the guiding light. The Star is an awakening of knowledge and understanding. The Star is taking on that most important role. I think this is really an interesting topic, and I encourage anybody who's not already familiar, and I suspect most of you already know about Edgar Cayce, but if you don't, or if you just want to refresh your memory, which I know I do, look up Edgar Cayce and look up the things that he spoke about. This was an inspired person. This was no Professor Harold Hill. He wasn't pulling a con on anybody. I feel that really strongly. I usually have a pretty good gut warning system when people are charlatans, and he's the opposite. I hope you'll look into him. I think he had very valuable things to say. He was a health nut long before it was popular. All right, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it provides some insight into what's going on, and it's certainly giving us food for thought. So have a good rest of your day. Slán go fóill. Slánte.